It's been more than 20 years since Mel Gibson stunned the world with The Passion of the Christ. That film didn't just succeed at the box office. It broke through culture, faith, and history, leaving millions in tears, sparking conversations in homes, schools, and even parliaments. Some loved it, some criticized it, but no one ignored it. And now, at long last, Gibson is returning to tell the next chapter, perhaps the most important story in human history, the resurrection of the Christ. This is not just another sequel. It's a project that has been whispered about, delayed, and even doubted for years. But as of August 2025, cameras are officially rolling in Rome, with a release date already set for Easter season 2027.
Time frame of a release date at all?
No.
Not yet?
I'm going to Rome tonight.
Are you really?
Yeah.
So in today's video, we're going to break down everything we know, where the film is right now in production.
It took me about 8 years to write the script for
Who's returning to the cast, and why the story is so ambitious it has to be split into 2 parts.
It's a pretty big thing, and it's not one film, it's 2 films.
Is it?
Yes.
And most importantly, what it could mean for the faith of millions around the world. Stay with me, because what we're about to explore is more than movie news. It's about how Hollywood, history, and the message of the gospel are about to collide again in a way we haven't seen in 2 decades.
Now that's maybe very personal, but I feel like the Almighty's preparing me to do something big.
Before we dive into what's happening with the resurrection, let's pause and remember the legacy of the film that started it all. When The Passion of the Christ premiered in 2004, the world didn't know what to expect. A brutal, unflinching depiction of Jesus' final hours, spoken entirely in Aramaic and Latin. It was everything Hollywood told filmmakers not to do. Yet Mel Gibson defied every rule. And the result? One of the most shocking box office stories of all time. On a budget of just $30 million, The Passion went on to gross over $600 million worldwide. It became the highest grossing R-rated film in history at the time, and it still stands as the most successful independent movie ever made. But the true impact wasn't just financial. Churches rented entire theaters, families wept together, debates erupted on talk shows and in classrooms. Some called it too violent. Others said it was the most powerful sermon they'd ever witnessed on screen. For countless viewers, it was the first time the suffering of Christ felt so real that they couldn't look away. And who can forget Jim Caviezel, his portrayal of Jesus? Raw, broken, yet deeply human, left an indelible mark. For many Christians, his face became the cinematic image of Christ himself. 2 decades later, people still talk about The Passion, and that's why the sequel matters so much. This isn't just another franchise installment. It's the continuation of a story that already changed cinema and, in many ways, changed hearts. If The Passion of the Christ was such a phenomenon, why did it take more than 20 years for a sequel to happen? The answer lies in both artistic challenge and spiritual weight. Almost immediately after 2004, whispers began. Would Gibson continue the story? Would we see the resurrection on screen? Fans speculated, churches asked, and even critics admitted they were curious. But Gibson stayed silent, at least for a while. Behind the scenes, he struggled with the enormity of the subject. The Passion dealt with suffering, something raw, brutal, and visceral. But how do you portray the resurrection? How do you capture the mystery of Christ conquering death, something beyond human imagination? Gibson himself admitted he didn't want to rush. He knew if he told this story, it had to be unlike anything seen before. By the mid-2010s, rumors returned. Jim Caviezel confirmed in interviews that Gibson was working on a script, even calling it the biggest film in history.
The resurrection.
Yeah.
When does that start? Has it started?
Yeah, oh, the writing, yes. It will be the biggest film in history. It might be 2 films.
Gibson partnered again with writer Randall Wallace, known for Braveheart, and together they began weaving a screenplay that could capture not just history, but eternity.
And I wrote it first with Randall Wallace, and then my brother and I sat down and had it.
Still, the years dragged on. Hollywood wasn't quick to embrace the project. Financing and distribution needed careful alignment. And then came global crises, delaying film productions everywhere. For many fans, the resurrection felt like it might never arrive. Yet in the background, Gibson kept refining the vision. He described the film not simply as a sequel, but as a metaphysical exploration, a journey into unseen realms, spiritual battles, and the mystery of time itself. He wanted something bold, even risky.
Why are the big realms of good and evil slugging it out for the hearts, minds, and souls of man? I think in order to understand that, you have to start with the fall of the angels.
And now, after decades of development, that vision has finally moved from rumor into reality. Cameras are rolling, the story is alive, and the wait is almost over. After years of speculation, it's no longer just talk. As of August 2025, principal photography for the Resurrection of the Christ has officially begun. The cameras are rolling at Cinecittà Studios in Rome, a legendary location sometimes called Hollywood on the Tiber. This is the same studio where epics like Ben-Hur and HBO's Rome were brought to life. By choosing Cinecittà, Gibson is anchoring his film in a place with decades of cinematic history, especially when it comes to biblical storytelling. But the production isn't limited to sound stages. Reports confirm that the crew will also be filming in southern Italy, in ancient towns like Matera and Gravina, whose stone streets and rugged landscapes naturally resemble the biblical world, if you remember. The Passion of the Christ also used Matera as its backdrop, which means the sequel is literally retracing its own cinematic footsteps. And this time, the project isn't just an independent gamble. Lionsgate has stepped in as the distributor, partnering with Gibson's own Icon Productions. That means this film won't just be a niche release. It's positioned for a global audience, with major studio backing to ensure it reaches theaters worldwide. Think about the scale for a moment. The first film was made for just $30 million outside the Hollywood system, and still broke records. Now imagine what Gibson can do with studio resources, modern technology, and 2 decades of storytelling maturity. The production value promises to be far greater, while still retaining the raw intensity that made The Passion unforgettable. This also tells us something important. The Resurrection is no longer a dream on paper. The fact that sets are built, actors are on location, and contracts with Lionsgate are signed means the train is moving, and it's moving fast toward its 2027 release. For viewers who've waited 20 years, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, when the vision finally steps out of rumor and into reality. A powerful story requires a powerful cast, and the Resurrection of the Christ is bringing back some of the most familiar faces from The Passion. At the center, of course, is Jim Caviezel, once again stepping into the role of Jesus. His portrayal in 2004 left a permanent mark on Christian cinema. This time, though, Caviezel faces a unique challenge. More than 20 years have passed. To bridge that gap, the production will reportedly use digital de-aging technology, ensuring continuity so audiences see the same Jesus they remember from The Passion. Returning as Mary Magdalene is Monica Bellucci, whose haunting performance in the first film gave depth to a character often misunderstood. Maia Morgenstern also reprises her role as Mary, the mother of Jesus, bringing quiet strength and heartbreaking dignity to the story. And Francesco Vito is back as Peter, the disciple whose journey from denial to restoration remains one of the most human and relatable arcs in the Gospels. Behind the camera, Mel Gibson once again directs. Love him or criticize him, his filmmaking vision is undeniable, and he isn't working alone. The screenplay was co-written with Randall Wallace, the writer of Braveheart. That collaboration signals a mix of raw emotion, sweeping drama, and intimate character arcs. What's striking here is continuity. This isn't a brand new cast trying to recreate the magic. It's the very same actors stepping back into roles they embodied decades ago. That continuity gives The Resurrection a sense of authenticity, like the story never ended, only paused. Of course, there may be new faces joining the project, but so far the production has kept those details under wraps. And in some ways, that secrecy only adds to the anticipation. When you combine Gibson's vision, Wallace's pen, and this returning cast, you don't just get a sequel, you get the continuation of something audiences already consider sacred. Here's one of the biggest surprises. The Resurrection of the Christ won't be just one movie. It will be 2 full-length films. In August 2025, as filming began, Mel Gibson and the production team confirmed that the story was simply too vast, too layered, to contain in a single film. The Resurrection is not just an event that happened in a moment. It is a cosmic turning point, with ripples through heaven, earth, and even the underworld. To capture all of that, Gibson chose to split the narrative, and the release plan is as symbolic as it is strategic. Part 1 is scheduled for March 26, 2027, Good Friday. That's the very day Christians around the world reflect on the crucifixion. Imagine sitting in theaters on Good Friday, watching the continuation of Christ's story unfold. Part 2 is slated for May 6, 2027, Ascension Day. That's 40 days after Easter, marking the moment when Christ ascended into heaven. The date isn't random, it's intentional. The film's release is tied directly into the liturgical calendar, making cinema itself a part of the Christian rhythm of remembrance. This decision means audiences won't just watch a movie. They'll live through a two-part experience that mirrors the church's own journey from passion to resurrection to ascension. From a cultural perspective, it's bold. From a spiritual perspective, it's profound. The timing alone tells us Gibson doesn't just want to entertain. He wants to create a worldwide event, one that blends faith, film, and worship into something unforgettable. When Mel Gibson first described his vision for the resurrection of the Christ, his words startled many. He called it a metaphysical acid trip. Now, what did he mean by that? Gibson wasn't talking about drugs. He was pointing to the idea that the resurrection is more than a historical event you can capture with a simple timeline. It's an encounter with the supernatural, the unseen realms of heaven and hell, and the mystery of eternity breaking into time. In the Passion, the focus was raw suffering, the flesh, the blood, the brutal reality of the cross. In the Resurrection, Gibson wants to take audiences beyond what the eye can see. Think about what Scripture tells us. When Christ died, he descended into the realm of the dead, proclaimed victory, and shattered the chains of sin and death. That's not something you can show with just a stone tomb. It's cosmic, it's otherworldly. So Gibson is weaving together layers of story. We'll see the disciples' fear and confusion in the days after the crucifixion. We'll likely witness Mary's sorrow turning to hope. But beyond that, the film will take us into Sheol, the underworld, showing what it means for Christ to conquer not just human enemies, but the very powers of darkness. This is why the film had to become two parts. The resurrection isn't just the moment when Jesus walked out of the tomb. It's the unseen war between life and death, light and darkness. That took place in those 3 days. Gibson wants to dramatize what theology has wrestled with for centuries, what actually happened between the cross and the empty tomb. For Christians, this vision is both thrilling and delicate. On one hand, it could inspire millions by making visible what is often left as mystery. On the other, it raises the challenge. How do you show the unshowable without distortion? That's Gibson's gamble, to bring audiences into a cinematic journey where history, theology, and imagination collide. If the Passion made us weep, the resurrection may leave us stunned, not just by what we see, but by what we feel about the unseen. So why does the resurrection of the Christ matter today? Why? After 2 decades of waiting, could this film have an impact beyond the box office? Look around at the world we live in. Wars rage, nations are divided, many people live with anxiety, depression, or a sense that life has no deeper purpose. Technology connects us, but loneliness is at an all-time high. Faith is often dismissed in the public square, and for some, Christianity feels like a story that belongs to the past. And yet, the resurrection is the very message our age needs to hear. It's the story that says death is not the end, that despair is not final, that even in humanity's darkest hour, God breaks through with victory. When The Passion was released in 2004, it forced people to confront the cost of sin and the reality of the cross. Millions returned to church. Conversations about Jesus filled workplaces, and the gospel suddenly felt urgent again. Now, with the resurrection, Gibson has the chance to do something equally powerful, to remind the world that the story doesn't stop at death. It goes on to triumph, transformation, and eternal hope. For Christian viewers, this film may reignite devotion. For skeptics, it may spark questions. For the wider culture, it may prove that the resurrection is not just an ancient claim. It's a living truth with relevance for every generation. This is why the project matters. It's not about celebrity directors or movie prophets. It's about using the art of cinema to proclaim the single most important event in human history. Christ has risen. After more than 20 years, The wait is over. The resurrection of the Christ is no longer an idea whispered about in interviews or speculated on in church circles. It is filming right now, in Rome and across Italy. The cast has returned. The dates are set. And in 2027, the world will once again be confronted with the story that changed everything. For some, it will be just another movie release. But for millions, it could be a moment of renewal, a chance to see, feel, and remember that the resurrection is not just history. It is the living heartbeat of our faith. So here's my question to you. What do you hope this film will show? Do you want it to focus on the disciples' fear and hope? On Christ's victory over death? On the unseen battles in the spiritual realm? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your voice matters. And this channel is about exploring faith together. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Following Christ so you don't miss future updates. And trust me, we will be watching this project closely every step of the way. I'll leave you with the words of Jesus in John 11:25. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And that, friends, is not just a line for a film. It's the truth that changes eternity.